So we'll dive into the coaching cues now. And to be open and honest, I've believed the previous research for years. What we started off with at the top of this episode, where animal protein is just better for building muscle than plant-based protein. I always believed that. I always, I had said that many, many times on social media and to clients. And I think from a practicality standpoint, I still think that that's probably true. But this new research is really interesting to paint the picture of it's not the end-all, be-all that you would think. Plant-based approaches can work just as well. You just need to be a little more dialed in. So I talked about practicality, and the reason I think an animal-based protein diet is going to be more practical than a plant-based protein diet is just that it's easier, and in most cases, we're not, if you're listening, you're probably not a bodybuilder. You're probably not trying to compete or be the most shredded person on earth at the Olympia on stage. What you are probably trying to do is build muscle, feel good about yourself, look good, and be happy. And with that being the case, a lot of people with those goals don't really want to have to micromanage every aspect of their diet. It's just not something people want to do, right? And it's completely understandable. You got other stuff going on. Like talked about at the beginning of this episode, you may have kids. You may have a lot of other responsibilities with your family and your career that make micromanaging your diet not possible. So from a practicality standpoint, if you're eating a more traditional diet and again, that means animal-based protein sources, you're going to get the essential amino acids that you need to build muscle. If you're eating enough protein every day, if you're eating enough calories every day, and if you're training hard, it's going to happen for you. You're going to build muscle. On a plant-based diet, you can absolutely 100% go that route. You can do a vegan diet and build muscle, train hard, and do all of the same things that people on a more traditional diet can do. It just may involve some extra steps. So if it's something you're thinking about, and something you're interested in, those are important considerations to make. Are you willing to put the extra steps into place to craft that type of diet, a vegan diet, to fit the goals that you have? Something to consider. It really is. And that's the main reason why I wanted to put this episode together, is just talk about practicality, because at the end of the day, this is not, like I said, this is not everything to any of us, to any of our lives. It's just a piece of our lives, and let's make things practical and as easy as we can. So to wrap things up, here are 4 main points I want to give you if you're considering a plant-based or vegan diet for building muscle. I want to break down 4 points that are going to be crucial to making that work for you. So number 1, you need to be consuming enough protein. And this applies to any dietary approach. Generally speaking, a high protein diet is the best place to start. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every day. That's a general recommendation. We can also go in a number of different ways. If you are not consuming much protein at all, simply consuming more protein is going to help you build muscle. So I like to start people off, if you're not focusing on protein at all, or if you're not eating very much and you know it, try to get to triple digits. Try to eat 100 grams of protein a day. Give that a shot. Beyond that, you can shoot for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Beyond that. And then the last thing I'll mention is, that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is a general recommendation. It doesn't necessarily apply to everybody because, think about that. If you're 350 pounds, 350 grams of protein a day is a lot, and it's probably not necessary or needed to build muscle effectively. You could probably consume less protein, allocate more of the other macronutrients like carbohydrates and fats to your diet to give you energy to train hard, and then you'd see your training improve, and you'd still be eating enough protein, and you'd be able to grow. So the last recommendation I'll give you on how to consume enough protein is, if you are very overweight or obese, take your height, calculate it in centimeters, and then eat that many grams of protein a day. So you may be 170 centimeters tall, and if you're 350 pounds, I would recommend you eat 170 grams of protein a day as opposed to trying to hit 300 or 350 a day. It goes back to, once again, practicality. That's much more practical, and it's also probably all your body needs. So that's number one. Number two, consistent servings of protein seem to be ideal, and we talked about that a little bit before. So spacing your protein out somewhat equally throughout the day is going to help if you're on a plant-based diet, and this, once again, applies to either dietary approach. But maybe even more important for a plant-based diet in terms of building muscle. So if you're trying to get 170 grams of protein a day, maybe you do those in 30-gram increments throughout the day, or as close to that as you can, just to make sure you're having consistent protein intake throughout each and every day. Number three, your training program needs to be structured appropriately, and you need to be consistently challenging yourself and training harder and harder over time. This is what we call progressive overload. And once again, this applies to any dietary approach in terms of building muscle. So you need to be challenging yourself to grow. Otherwise, none of this diet stuff really makes all that much of a difference, because you're not going to be training hard enough. You have to give your body a stimulus that makes it respond and say, oh, that was hard. I need to grow to better respond to this in the future.